Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda, and please welcome to our Operation Freedom platform, WeThePeopleProcessing.com. You know, are you tired of being threatened to be canceled just because you have a company focused on liberty and freedom? Well, worry no more, folks. WeThePeopleProcessing.com is your go-to merchant services, freedom-based company to provide business service payment solutions. We the People Processing provides their clients a cancel culture-free platform which is domestically based. They provide competitive rates, no contracts with next-day funding, a fully vetted and like-minded financial infrastructure, and full support for integrations, implementation, and e-commerce efforts. Bottom line, WeThePeopleProcessing.com focuses on defending your company's free market growth, values, and future. Check them out at www.WeThePeopleProcessing.com. Once you're on the site, enter in password Operation Freedom or call 855-499-2024. That's WeThePeopleProcessing.com. Then, when on the website, enter Operation Freedom as your password or call 855-499-2024.
Mr. President-elect,
go ahead.
Can you say
Asking a
categorically,
question.
Mr. President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Dave versus the MSM. I'd like to thank you for joining me today. You can join me every Sunday for the live radio show Operation Freedom, which airs out of the People's Republic of Ann Arbor through Wham Talk 1600 studios by doing the following. From 2 to 5 Eastern, go with great guests, great analysis, information the bought off lamestream fake media will never touch. Just go to davejanda.com, hit the listen live button. It'll take you to Wham Talk 1600 streaming service. Hit play, you're with us. Again, information the deep state's own tentacle, the bought off lamestream fake media, does not want you to know. Our goal is to empower you by providing you information you will not get from any other sources, and we bring the best guests with the best analysis right to your front door to help you. The way we beat these totalitarian thugs is by educating and empowering as many people as possible. It is what they fear the most. This is why they are so heavy-handed with their censorship, which is why I can only go into certain topics at a certain depth level on this platform, YawnTube. Now look, we are there at davejanda.com, both the free, the public side, as well as the subscription side, with extra guests, extra shows, extra content, extra in-depth analysis. It's information you really can't afford not to have, but I cannot do it on a public platform, and that includes the Rumbles of the world as well. That's why we have it at davejanda.com. Now, on the free side, the public side, there's a couple videos you need to watch and then network. The first is under the Operation Freedom briefings. The title, it's in a red box on the right-hand side near the top. And it's about our government has devolved, not evolved, devolved. And it's about what happened in November 2020. It's about it all. And I can't go near any of that, which is why I have to do the hand signal thing on this platform. It's there for you. Please watch it. Number 2, we have a series of interviews with Dr. Lee Merritt, one of the top physicians, researchers, surgeons, and healthcare policy analysts in our country. There are 3 of those interviews. The last one was uploaded this past week. It's in a yellow box, so you'll see a couple Lee Merritt interviews earlier in end of March and in June, and then the one I just uploaded was a part of our subscription platform, but as a service to the public, it's there for you. It's called Unrestricted Warfare Goes Viral. It's down the homepage in a yellow box. You must watch that. It will help you, protect you, and make sense out of this mayhem, this chaos that the puppets and the deep state, puppets of the deep state and the deep state, their handlers, have created. I encourage you to go there. It's there for you. Now, I want to start today's presentation off with a couple of quotes. My parents, who were, I wish they were here today to impart their knowledge on all of you. You got me. They're up in heaven and have been for a number of years. But I want to, I do this on a regular basis, pass on some of the wisdom that they try to impart and provide to their son. This was drilled into me by my parents. Now, just remember what's been happening for years, decades. The business model of the deep state is to use fear to paralyze society, people and society, so that once paralyzed, you become an easier target, an easier victim of their operations that they're running. And this is a huge operation they've been running, in particular over the past, year and 3/4? Ben and Ruth Janda. 1, never make a decision based on fear. 2, you can be concerned about something or an issue, but fear nothing. Number 3, and I'll clean this one up a little bit. This was my dad's. If you do fear something or someone or some entity, you will get screwed. Let's just put it that way. Okay? My mom was a history teacher. One of the quotes she passed on to me was from Winston Churchill. Bears repeating. Quote, if you will not fight for right when you can easily win without bloodshed, if you will not fight when your victory is sure and not too costly, you may come to the moment when you will have to fight with all the odds against you and only a precarious chance of survival. There may even be a worst-case scenario. You may have to fight when there is no hope of victory, because it is better to perish than to live as slaves. End quote. I don't think we've gotten to the final portion of that quote. There is a hope that we can be victorious over this evil empire, the deep state, the New World Order crowd, the globalist international syndicate, the criminal international banking syndicate, whatever you want to call it. They want you to think there is no hope. That's what this whole operation has been about for the past year and 3/4. No, there is hope. And there's not only hope. I think the odds are that in the end, we will become victorious. Why do I believe that? We have them outnumbered by a huge margin. They don't want you to realize that, but we do. And all we have to do is take information that is independent, not from the bought-off lamestream fake media, the all propaganda, misinformation, disinformation, independent media, which you get from here and a number of other sources, and network it to anyone and everyone you know and love. The more educated individuals are with the facts, the more empowered they become. And the more they say to the deep state, no. It's not going to happen. Look, their entire business model is based on chaos, on crisis, on disruption. I want to play a little 10-second clip from you. Rahm Emanuel, scum, former chief of staff to Obama. This comment he made was made in 2009 when he was chief of staff for Obama, right? And former mayor of Chicago, my hometown, along with the current mayor, Lightfoot, along with several of the others before. I mean, just destroyed the city. But that's what globalists do. They divide and conquer, they wreak havoc, and out of it they get more power, more control, more money. We'll get to that in a minute. I want to play this clip from Rahm Emanuel. Now listen to what he says. Here we go. Listen to this.
A serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before. I think America...
Let's play that again.
a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before. I think America, you never want a serious crisis to go to waste.
Well, there you have it. You never want a serious crisis to go to waste, and you can do things you thought you could never do before. That's their entire playbook, right? Hence the title of today's presentation, Never Let a Good Crisis Go to Waste. Now, think about it. Think about the last year and three-quarter. Think about everything they've perpetrated over many decades' time. I mean, who's responsible for these endless wars we're always in? Go back to World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Middle East. September 2001, right? Middle East again. What's happening now? What started 20 years ago with it, starting in Afghanistan. Think about what happened in Iraq. Think about who benefits from those crisis periods. Because out of crisis comes chaos, right? And what the deep state does is out of chaos, they get more power, more control, and more money for themselves to inflict more damage on all of us that they call, that are not part of the elite. They call all of us useless eaters because, well, we're using resources that they believe were really meant for them. But because they're so beneficial, they're letting us use some of these resources until they decide, well, guess what? Time's up. You think that has something to do about this last 20 months? Huh? If you want to know their playbook, read Agenda 21. It was brought by George H.W. Bush to our shores, in 1991. Globalist extraordinaire. And stop, I'm going to say it again, stop this right-left garbage. That's meant to divide and conquer. There's one political party. And if you haven't figured it out by now, you might never, but let me try again to help you. There's one political party called the Republicrats. They're all owned and operated by a criminal syndicate. Period. And their goal is more power, more control, and more money. And they do it with chaos and crisis, because guess what that does? That puts the fear into you and paralyzes you. And out of that formula, their fear formula and chaos formula, guess what happens to all of us that aren't part of the elite structure? We end up with less freedom, less liberty, and less financial resources to use to empower ourselves against these scum. Let me give you an example. This from Steve Malloy from Real Clear Energy. Remember, we have a global warming, man-made global warming crisis. Another crisis. Oh. To advance the climate agenda, never waste bad weather. Bad weather is wreaking havoc in parts of the world. The cynical climate alarmist community hopes it will help get Joe Biden's multi-trillion-dollar climate agenda through Congress. Quote, amid summer of fire and floods, a moment of truth for climate action, editorialized the Washington Post. So let's look at the summer of fires and floods. Is this global warming, man-made global warming, as alarmists want you to believe, or just weather? You know what? You should listen to the interviews I do with Joe Bastardi on a regular basis, because Joe is the premier expert in climate in the world. Oh, those interviews. He has a book out, Weaponizing the Weather. A fantastic book. You should get it. Joe is a student of meteorological history, and he will tell you that these weather patterns we're seeing now, he'll give you the year. Oh, this would happen in 1943, this happened in 1924, 1935. This is nothing new. They want you to think that, oh, this is a crisis, this is chaos. Oh, we're going to get all the flooding of the coastline, which is why Obama's buying a 30-acre, $13 million house right on the water, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Come on, actions speak louder than words. They go on, but don't expect climate weather reality to dampen the alarm repeated over and over every day in the media. We are not living through unprecedented bad weather so much as we are living through unprecedented exploitation of it for bad ends. The bad ends being for the deep state's benefit, right? Right. That's what this is about. And remember, they will take extraordinary measures to try to justify their propaganda, their pushing of these crisis narratives. How about this one? Right? It's a horrendous situation in Afghanistan. We did an entire show, our radio show last week, on the Afghanistan situation. And I had an in-depth analysis that I can't go to on this platform or Rumble or anywhere else other than on the subscription side of what's really going on, what's really happening in Afghanistan. I have high-level contacts that are of diplomatic origins that I brought information for our subscribers on our WTF show. And if I go into this on the radio, they'll shut the radio station down. If I go to it on this channel, forget it. The channel's gone. If I do it on Rumble, the channel's gone. My outreach to people gets eliminated. So we have to walk a fine line, which is why we have the DaveJanda.com and the subscription side. But CBS, right? Okay, we just talked about this man-made global warming hoo-ha. Okay, listen. No, CBS News, global warming did not create the Taliban victory in Afghanistan. That's what CBS is saying. Listen, this is from James Taylor. CBS News published an article claiming global warming was a major factor in the Taliban overrunning Afghanistan and creating murderous chaos throughout the country rather than political ineptitude at the hands, by the way, of the globalists. I mean, look, this chaos in Afghanistan, who's going to benefit? Always say that. Who's going to benefit? What's the ultimate goal here, right? Crisis, chaos. Who's going to benefit? You think China might benefit? I mean, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago on my platform in the WTF show. Do you think China might benefit out of this? Because they're coming right with their cozy relationship with Pakistan, right? Who has supported the Taliban for decades. Who's going to benefit? You think China might benefit? I think so. Who else is going to benefit? Well, the globalists will, right? The globalists will benefit out of this. They're going to spin this every way possible. What do you think the ultimate goal is of the globalists out of Afghanistan? I'll give you a little hint. I can't go into great depth here, right? But look at our southern border and how it's a sieve and how it's adversely impacting every American from a safety, security, and health standpoint, okay? Now, remember, Biden administration blocked freedom fighters from coming from Cuba to our shores, right? Well, no, they value freedom. We don't want them. But now they want to bring unvetted, to the tune of 150,000 people from Afghanistan to our shores. Unvetted, untested health-wise, but unvetted. You see, I believe this is what's ultimately the goal of the globalists out of this whole goat rodeo in Afghanistan. It's to another open border situation. You see, those that helped us, the Afghans, we need to help them and get them out of there. But there should be staging areas at our military bases in the Middle East. And then I would suggest that once, if we find that, because you know there are Taliban infiltrators and terrorist infiltrators in the group that's trying to come out, right? I mean, you know that's part of the deal here, right? Globalist playbook. They've done it before. They're going to do it again, but they're really doing it now. So they think this is going to be, oh, the American public will welcome all these people with open arms, and they won't test them, and they won't vet them, and it'll create havoc in our own country, right? Because, right? So here's what I would suggest. Military bases, bring them into military bases, easy for me to say, and vet them and test them. And if they don't pass the vetting test, back to Afghanistan. If they do pass the vetting process, I suggest that we speak to all those in the Middle East that we have helped and say, okay, we have 10,000 folks that have now been vetted. You are a country that is not under Taliban rule. How many of these tens of thousands are you going to take? You don't want to take any? Well, guess what? Our foreign aid, guess what? We're going to just cut your foreign aid. It's that simple. If you can't help this situation, then we can't help you. That's how I handle it. But what's going to happen? There's not going to be any vetting at military bases. They're going to be trying to bring all these folks in the United States, unvetted, untested, and watch what happens. Because, let me tell you, I think the beta test for this was, remember those CHOP zones in Seattle that the Antifa crazies and all these other people had set up, these autonomous zones? That's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to do with a number of these terrorists that are impregnated in this airlift because they're unvetted and untested. Not all of them, but a chunk. And you watch, there are going to be certain areas in our country that all of a sudden start becoming autonomous zones. And according to the diplomatic folks I've spoken to, the area that they think is most vulnerable for this to happen is around the Minneapolis area. So let's just see. Going back to CBS News. Remember, this Taliban victory is because of global warming, man-made global warming. CBS News argues that man-made global warming created horrible weather conditions that decimated crop production. That would be poppies or opium. So is the world better or worse with less opium and heroin? Yeah, okay. CBS News argues that global warming created horrible weather conditions that decimated crop production during the past 30 years in the country, and the Taliban fed off the misery experienced by Afghan farmers. Right. That's what they want you to believe. And when they get caught in a situation that is being perceived by the public as, there's huge trouble here. I mean, Biden was hiding in Camp David. Harris was hiding in the White House and then in her office, and as I understand it, yelling, "Don't pin this S on me. I'm not going to go out there and talk to the public or talk to the press." Then she ends up getting on a plane and going on a Southeast tour, goes to Singapore and then Vietnam, and laughing about the people that are stranded. From my diplomatic sources, I've talked about this. I will not go into great depth, but I talked about this on our subscription platform. There's not 10,000 Americans trapped behind enemy lines in Afghanistan that can't get to the airport. According to my diplomatic sources, over 30,000 Americans that are essentially hostages. So, and remember, the State Department says don't try to get to the airport because it's too dangerous. Pentagon's going, well, we didn't know the State Department said that. And then you had this from this Psaki. Yeah, I know it's Psaki, but I do it for a reason. This propagandist who supposedly is a press secretary, this Jen Psaki. Americans are not stranded in Afghanistan. Really? Really? When they get caught, they'll just say, "Don't believe what you're seeing and what you're hearing. Don't believe your lying eyes. No. Listen, the White House recently argued that Americans were not stranded in Afghanistan, calling it, quote, irresponsible, end quote, to say so. This after they told Americans it was not safe to come to the Kabul airport that were stranded in Afghanistan. I can't go into the whole issue on but they're telling you, right? The CDC has their own data center, right? And it's about adverse situations that occur related to that, right? And they're telling you same thing. Don't look there. No, don't put. It's not even blinders. It's a blindfold and a hood, and it's don't go there. No, don't believe that. No, don't look there. When they get caught, they tell you not to believe your own eyes, your own ears, your own brain. It's all about chaos, folks. And I believe that we are on the precipice of significant financial chaos. Now, you don't have to believe me, but we have a wealth, no pun intended, well, maybe pun intended, of experts on the economic and financial scene. Listen to the interviews we've done with Ed Steer, Trader Steph, Craig Hemke, Adriana Reed, Bill Holter, Rob Kirby, Daniel Brigman about supply chains. All of those interviews point to significant economic and financial chaos straight ahead. Okay? And we talk about ways to protect yourself, because this is what the deep state is coming with. Okay? They kind of divert your attention with the Afghanistan situation, all this other stuff, and with the man-made global warming thing. Listen to this. Now remember, we know of Basement Joe's financial ties to China. We know of that through the documented evidence in Hunter Biden's laptop that $1.5 billion was laundered through the Biden family, of which the big guy got 10%. $1.5 billion from China was laundered into the Biden family. What's that paying for? Remember who I said benefits, one of the beneficiaries of what happened in Afghanistan? China? You think that was part of? Prominent Chinese academics warning that inflation, is Biden doing anything to cause stagflation, stagnating economy with escalating inflation? You bet he is, and they are. And that's not by accident, just as the Afghan situation wasn't by accident. Prominent Chinese academics warning that inflation might bankrupt the U.S. government will be read carefully in Washington. Remden University professor Jin Kangrong has Washington's attention. The senior director for China at the U.S. National Security Council, Rush Doshi, cited him 24 times in a new book. Professor Jin's warning recently at the Observer website that U.S. inflation might lead to the bankruptcy of the U.S. government will be read carefully in Washington, especially because Jin claims that China, now listen, can help America out of its economic problems. Do you think what happened in Afghanistan was a down payment on? China can help. Remember, there's no such thing as a free lunch, especially with China, right? Okay, goes on. Quote, this is what he said. Quote, the United States is in a state of mental transition, the Chinese academic averred, citing the late Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Remember, Kubler-Ross did the 5 stages of dying and grieving? Okay. So the 5 stages of grieving are from Kubler-Ross. So this is what he said: that denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Denial, I don't have it. It's not happening. Anger, ooh, why is this happening? Why me? Bargaining, okay, I'll do whatever you want just to make this right. Depression, oh, it's not going the way I want. Uh-oh. And acceptance, okay. There's nothing more I can do. I give up. Okay. Quote, so here's what this Jin said. Quote, the United States is in a state of mental transition. America, this is what he said, America was in denial 3 years ago and shifted to anger. But some sane people may be ready for the third stage. It's bargaining. And be ready to bargain. Yeah. Be ready to bargain. Be ready to bargain. What do you think that bargaining is? From China, here's how they bargain. From China's side. We win. You, America, you, everyone else in the world, lose. That's the bargain. You see, they know they already own Biden. They own his administration. They all own all of those around him. They own the vast majority and have choke points in the vast majority of corporations that are housed in the United States. They don't bargain. They just out and out do everything possible to win. They might make you think they're going to bargain. They don't bargain. And meanwhile, they're reaping a tremendous amount off of their investment in the Biden family. Look what happened in Afghanistan, right? Look what he's doing with our financial markets. Look what he's doing with the border. Look what he's doing with going to happen with all these folks coming from unvetted, untested from Afghanistan. Look what he's doing with the Green New Deal. Look what he's doing bankrupting our country with over $5 trillion more of spending. And then there's this. Biden, Department of Justice, drops charges against China military members accused of lying to get jobs at U.S. universities. The Department of Justice has dropped charges against 5 members of the Chinese military, whom federal prosecutors previously accused of lying to obtain visas to get jobs and doctoral spots at United States universities. Right. Drop the charges. Just all part of the bargain. Just all part of the deal. And that's where we are today. Now, what do? I bet that 9.9 out of 10 people that you know none of this information I just presented. So, you can benefit from knowing this and looking in your crystal ball and saying, okay, I got to prepare myself financially. I have to do this. I have to do that. Good. But is that all you're going to do? You need to help as many people as possible. At a minimum, send them this video. Send them to our website. Have them watch the Dr. Lee Merritt interview, the latest one, and the other 2. Have them look at that video on how our government has devolved. In that, I outlined the whole deal. They might have a hard time believing it, but I put data behind it and sourcing behind it. And hopefully you and others will want to become subscribers at our platform. Because I go into depth and I present information, as I said, I cannot present on public platforms. Period. And in order to protect that information, it takes many thousands of dollars every month to protect what we do there. It's that simple. I hope you'll utilize it. Because the more people we have educated and empowered, the sooner we end this reign of terror and chaos and crisis by the deep state. I thank you for your time. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for joining me today.